Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Gray Matter podcast. I'm very excited. This is our first episode with a new production team. We're going to be bringing you some really exciting content and rebranding the show. And I'm very excited about it. I think you're really going to love what we're going to bring to you. And to start off with, we've got a really fantastic guest. I was recently listening to another podcast where the guest was talking about giants and people called Nephilim, and the idea that angels came down to earth to mate with earthly women because they lusted after them. And I thought, wow, this is really captivating. And I listened to the show. It was over 2 hours. And lo and behold, God was listening because we had booked the gentleman who's on our show today. His name is Marzulli, and he is an expert in all this stuff. Welcome to the program. It's great to have you here.
Well, it's great to be here on Gray Matter, Mr. Gray, and I look forward to our time together.
Yeah, we're going to dive in. We're going to talk about your most recent book called The Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials and the End Times. I've read this book. It was educational. It was thrilling. It was shocking. I laughed. I cried. I honestly, I could not put it down.
Well, thank you.
It opened up also all kinds of channels in my mind. There's lots of hyperlinks there that connect to other parts of Scripture and other stories that I had a hard time making sense of. And so your book really, I think, maybe this is by design. It links up with a lot of other things, and we're going to dive into that and get you to explain some of this stuff. Before we do that, as we always do, we have our framing aphorisms. These are somewhat biblical in nature. You can imagine why, given the introduction. Firstly, from Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. Next, from Numbers, and there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Next, from the book of Jude, Enoch, the seventh from Adam, also prophesied about them. Behold, the Lord is coming with the myriad of his holy ones. And finally, from the book of Enoch, chapter 7, verse 1, and all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them, and to defile themselves with them, and they taught them with charms and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. Now, if that doesn't fascinate you, you may as well shut this off, because we're going to get deeper into this stuff. So our guest, Leighton Marzulli, author of The Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Extraterrestrials and the End Times, is a frank supernaturalist who lectures on the subjects of the UFOs, the Nephilim, we're going to find out who they are, and ancient prophetic texts, presenting his exhaustive research at conferences and churches and through all media platforms and interviews on numerous national and international radio and television programs. He is an author, lecturer, and filmmaker. He has penned 12 books, a dozen, including the Nephilim trilogy, and which made the CBA bestsellers list. And based on his work and on the trilogy, he received an honorary doctorate from his mentor, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas, who was the provost at Pacific International University. He was also honored with the Gold Medallion Award from Chuck Missler at the K-House Conference in 2014. So obviously, this man knows a lot about this topic. So let's start with this. I need you to explain this to me. Book of Enoch says, behold, a star fell from heaven, and the children of the earth began to tremble and quake before them and to flee from them. And again, I saw how they began to gore each other and to devour each other, and the earth began to cry aloud. So LA, tell me first of all, what is the Book of Enoch and what's it all about?
Well, a couple of things here. If you were going to keep one book away from Christians or pastors studying to be pastors, they're in seminary, don't read the Book of Enoch, whatever you do. Don't read it. Nope. You'll go to hell if you read it. You're not going to pass the course. Enoch, blah, 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 blah. Enoch was buried. No one even had a copy of it. The Ethiopian Bible had it, and that's where R.H. Charles had it, almost, 150 years ago, something crazy like
Was
that.
it part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, LA? Was that
Well, it's Book of Enoch, I believe, was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls
okay?
too.
Okay.
But it was found in the Ethiopian Bible. The Book of Enoch precedes Genesis. And here's something interesting. You
Yeah.
quoted Jude.
Yeah.
So I'm being a little glib here. I fully admit it. But Jude is a half brother of Jesus.
Right.
That's a fact. All right. So
Mhm.
you just don't go down to the local library and pick up a scroll. I like the scroll of Enoch, please, and right. So in order for Jude to quote that, it's got to be part of his wheelhouse. He's read it and reread it. It's part of who he is, and he's quoting Jude in this short little letter. This is where I kind of go off the rails for some people. So where did he get it from? Now, this is, tongue in cheek here, but did Jesus go to Jude and go, "Hey, Jude, here's the Book of Enoch. Maybe you should read it. You might use this later." I mean, right? That's tongue in cheek here. But we know that the Book of Enoch was suppressed, absolutely suppressed.
Right.
Because if you want to keep pastors and upcoming, men that are dedicating your life to the Word, don't read Enoch, because Enoch tells you all about the seed war. It amplifies the Genesis 6 narrative. It amplifies what we read about in our Bibles in Genesis 3:15. So the little vignette, remember, Adam and Eve have just sinned something, and you never hear people talk about this. Well, they cover themselves up. They realize they're naked. Excuse me, their DNA has undergone a massive shift. Something has happened. Something has corrupted their DNA to the point where they hear, and this is another 3-hour conversation, they hear the sound of the Lord walking in the garden. So what's that? What's the sound of the Lord? Are the flowers and trees singing because here comes our Creator? What is the sound? It's, inquiring minds want to know. We're not told.
Right. Yeah.
Right? We're not told what the sound is. So Adam and Eve are terrified. Why are they terrified? Because they're hiding from the Lord. Why would they hide from the Lord? Because they realize something has happened. They're not sure what, but they know they've changed, and they've changed drastically and radically. They now have a sin nature, just like you do, just like I do.
Right.
I'm going to just hold on. Let me go back here. I'm just going to make a note because I'm about to go down a rabbit trail. And I've learned sometimes it's good to have a string. So
well, this is, you're already starting. Genesis chapter 6. I mean, lots of people start reading the Bible, and I'm one of them. I try to read it cover to cover, like at least once a year. I always struggle with Genesis chapter 6 for like how do you make sense of that? This idea that there's angels and they're lusting after women. It's astonishing.
Look, the first time, it's too many rabbit trails here. It's like where to begin. I've been taken twice. All right. Then we'll get back to Genesis 3.
Yeah.
Talking about the sin nature. I've been taken twice in 45 years. So this doesn't happen like Paul. Paul only alludes to it one time. In the body or out of the body, I know not. So it's not something that the Lord does, okay, it's time to go up again. It's not a weekly event, twice in 45 years. The second time I was getting ready to take a shower. I'm in the bathroom. I'm minding my own business. I'm not fasting and praying. I'm not thinking about the Lord. I'm just getting ready to go in and take a shower. How carnal do you have to be, right? And all of a sudden, I'm taken. I'm not here anymore. I am in the body, out of the body. I cannot tell. I find myself in this heavenly scene. There are people as far as you can see in every direction. And that's second one. Second two, I realize there's a holy, reverential silence. Everyone knows exactly what has happened. We have been raptured. We are in the heavenlies, in the clouds with Jesus. That's where we are. Second three, I do this in absolute astonishment. Looking at my solar plexus, my sin nature is gone.
Wow.
There's no more sin nature. My DNA has been changed. In other words, when the Bible says, "Behold, I tell you a mystery, we shall not all sleep, but what shall be changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye." So some people go, "Oh, we're raptured, twinkling of an eye, blink." Well, what if it doesn't mean that? Because the other scripture that talks about the rapture, the dead in Christ will rise first. Those of us who remain greet the Lord in the clouds, in the air, right? We're gathered in the clouds in the air with the Lord. So I think we go up slowly. What changes in a twinkling of an eye is our sin nature is no longer there. Our DNA, our corrupt DNA, is re-altered.
What a moment of wonder that must have been for you. Like
astonishing. Yeah. When I came back, it was only 3 seconds. I went like this, then I'm back in the bathroom. I look around, I fall to my knees, and I weep. I wept, just bitterly wept, because I know where we're going, and there's just goodness and holiness and love. That's who he is. There's also judgment, because that 7-year tribulation period, the time of Jacob's trouble, deals with the nation of Israel and the dragon in particular. So let's go back to Genesis 3:15. Adam and Eve are terrified. They know something has happened, but they can't articulate it because, they haven't gone to college. Let's put it that way. All right?
There are no colleges at that point.
They don't know. It's like, something's happened. I'm not sure what. And there's a vignette where the Lord comes in, the sound of the Lord, and you have the dragon over here. You've got Adam and Eve over here, the dragon and Adam and Eve. And in the center, you've got the pre-incarnate Christ. And I got this from Gary Stearman years ago at the Nephilim Mounds Conference. And we all sat there. We all knew about Genesis 6, but we hadn't linked it back to Genesis 3:15. If you were going to keep one scripture from pastors, up-and-coming pastors in seminary, this is the one you keep, because it opens up the entire Bible. Understand Genesis 3:15, in my opinion, and the whole Bible opens up. You don't understand Genesis 3:15, and you're confused, completely confused, especially when you get a couple of chapters later with Genesis 6. Right. So the pre-incarnate Christ says to the dragon, your seed, your offspring will be at war, at enmity with the offspring, the seed of the woman. The one coming from the woman, the proto-evangelium, will crush your head, you will bruise his heel. It's the whole Bible. Then it's a move, counter move. The dragon makes a move, the Most High God makes a move, and the dragon is, waits. So he figures 3 chapters later, all I have to do is corrupt the genome of the entire planet. And remember, there's not like 8 billion people running around. No. There's what, a couple of million people? Not many. In the days of Noah, not many people. I mean, you can go to Usher, Bishop Usher, and read. It's all conjecture. We don't know. But it's in a very small area. They're not all over the globe. They're in one central entity by the fallen angels, 200 of them, Book of Enoch, come down. They make an oath. I wrote an entire book on this. Countermove, how the Nephilim returned.
Right, yes.
And they say, Semyazi, the leader, says, I fear that you will agree not to do this deed, and I alone will bear the penalty of this great sin. It's a suicide mission. They know exactly what they're doing, but they do it anyway. Because if they can corrupt the genome, right? If they can corrupt the genome and make it so you're no longer human, guess what? Messiah won't be born.
So is that the reason why they do it? Is it because they want to corrupt the genome, or is it this lust idea that they're lusting after the women, or is that just the method? Is that just sort of the modus operandus to corrupt the genome?
Something to think about. Up until this point, there had never been a female.
Oh, really?
In the entire universe. Think about that. Eve is the mother of all living things. So this is a creation. Angels had never seen anything that looked like Eve. It hadn't existed before.
I'd never heard it put that way. That's really fascinating. Yeah.
It's just him. He goes, LA, look at this, drop. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, Lord. I never thought of that before. Yeah. That's why he's God and I'm not. It's just like, all glory to the King. All glory to the King. So there hadn't been a female entity, never had existed. And the angels see them, and you're looking at, look, women, let's just be honest, women are beautiful. They just are. And this is why the sons of God see the daughters of men, but then they go, ha-ha, all we have to do is contaminate the genome, the gene pool. Yeah. So it's a double, it's a win-win for them. We get to have sex with the women and we can contaminate the gene pool at the same time. Let's go do it. And so they do it. But here's the rub. Semyaza knows what the penalty is. That's why he says it. I used to say that. I taught on this for years. And then one day the Lord opened my eyes and said, this is why all the glory is his. I mean, it just is. I'm just the messenger. And when he comes back, I'll be probably growing potatoes in Idaho. I don't know. whatever it is, it's going to be great. So it's, Semyaza knows it's a suicide mission, but they do it anyway. This is why they're on Mount Hermon, and there's an oath that they take. The 200 watcher angels,
Right.
I fear that you will agree not to do the saying, I alone will bear the penalty of a great sin. When Jesus dies, and this is another 3-hour conversation, again, the Lord showed me this. This is why no one got it. Nobody got it. Mary didn't get it. John didn't get it. Peter didn't get it. The rest of the disciples didn't get it. The dragon didn't get it. Nobody got it. That's why Mary, the 2 Marys are at the cross, and they're going like, he's going to come down any minute. John's thinking the same thing. And then Jesus says, this is your mother. And at this point, they got to be going, wait a minute, because they know he's God. They know that he's God. They know that.
Right.
Mary and John and the apostles, Peter, you are the Son of the living God. They know who he is. Right. The dragon knows who he is.
Yeah.
And yet he's there. This is why the crowd is yelling, he saved others. Come down, save yourself, come down.
Mm-hmm.
And no one figures out. This is why it's just a brilliant strategy. The Lord showed me this. How can you kill God? Right? You can't kill God.
No.
Right? You can't kill God, but you can, because he's fully God and fully man.
Right.
It's the most
ultimate paradox.
It's the most profound event in all of history.
Mm-hmm.
So God dies on the cross. His body goes into the tomb. This is where we get the Shroud of Turin.
Right.
This is our new film coming out.
Oh, really?
About 3 weeks.
Brilliant.
Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. And remember, this is what the shroud looks like. All you skeptics out there, oh, it's a Catholic relic. No, it isn't. That's what the shroud looks like when you're looking at it. But when you take a photograph like Secunda Pia did in 1898, and he's developing the glass plates and of the headshot, he almost drops the glass plate because this is what he sees.
Wow. Yeah.
It's not a painting, folks.
Yeah.
And no one knows how it was done. And it's not a medieval forgery, because carbon-14 dating was skewed. We've already proven that.
Yeah.
Giulio Fanti, who we interviewed, came out with a paper earlier this year talking about the weave is only indigenous to Jerusalem. I mean, it is what it is, but that's a 3-hour conversation. But Genesis 3:15 leads to Genesis 6. They come down, and they know it's a suicide mission. So when Jesus dies, body's in the tomb, where does he go? He goes and preaches what proclaims, read Bullinger's paper, he proclaims to the fallen angels that are in gloomy dungeons, Jude, who have left their first estate, no jailbreak. I got the keys. Checkmate. It's over. It's over. And they're all sitting there going, oh,
so that's the penalty. That's the penalty they pay.
That's the penalty. See, they know it's going to happen, but they do it anyway because the dragon, this is conjecture, the dragon has said, it's okay, go ahead and do this because there's going to be a jailbreak. All you got to do is pollute the genome, and then I'll get you right out.
Right.
No, it's not what happens. It's not what happens.
The temptation. So tell us about the Nephilim. What are they all about? How do they
Genesis
come about?
6 is the Nephilim are the progeny of fallen angels and earthly women. People go,
these are giants, right? They're giants?
Well, some of them.
Yeah.
But when you go into the promised land, there's all these different, like the Anakim, the Nephilim, the Raphaim, the Zanzumim.
Yeah.
Like Anakim means long necks. What the enemy is doing, conjecture on my part, is he's trying to create a man in his image, and he can't get it right. He can't get it right. That's why the long necks, or the Zanzumim, the buzzing ones. What the heck is that? So they have different countenances. They have different, like, I believe, and based on our DNA evidence that we're going to hopefully show here, this guy is, in my opinion, one of the tribes.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, it's not a real. It's a model of it's 1-to-1, a 1-to-1 model. But it's what we found in Paracas.
Wow. And
our DNA is ongoing. And, the skeptics out there moan and groan and complain and, all they do is throw stones. The bottom line is, we are the only people on the planet who have done a deep dive. And we are in the process of doing more sequencing with the material that we have. And we will the geneticists will be releasing a peer-reviewed paper fairly soon. I'm not a date setter, but I would say fairly soon.
So in your book, in the most recent book, folks, we're talking to L.A. Marzulli. He's a author of a dozen books. This most recent one is called The Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials in the End Times. Now, one of the things you talk about in the book is you say that, you answered the question, are Bigfoot creatures, Sasquatches, real? And could they be Nephilim? You want to talk about that a little bit? I thought this was really fascinating because I've always been captivated by the Bigfoot story. So I thought this was really interesting.
We have pictures, we have video. The late Scott Carpenter was on my show several times, Bigfoot researcher. And Scott would have a camera positioned facing that way, facing behind him as he would walk. And sure enough, they would be popping in and popping out. One of the most profound ones is profound videos is when you see a perfect circle appear, and then inside that circle, you have a Sasquatch with an elongated head on one knee looking at Scott. It's about maybe 50 feet away. So there's a breeding program. Remember the book of Daniel. See, Genesis 3:15 is the key. If we don't have the proper exegesis, seed war. See, that doesn't end. The seed war continues even today. The seed war is going on. So if you don't understand Genesis 3:15, then you've got no framework to embrace all these other oddities, for lack of a better word, that are manifesting in our space-time continuum. But once you plug in Genesis 3:15, so when you get to Daniel 2:43, it says their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Word cleave is marriage. That's what happened in Genesis 6. No marriage. I got that from my friend Jim Williamson. So that seed war is continuing up until modernity. But then the angel gives us a clue as to when the book of Daniel will be revealed, opened up. Seal up the words in this book, Daniel. Men will run to and fro over the face of the earth, knowledge will increase. Well, that's flatlined from 2,500 years ago with Daniel to the present day. Nothing changes until Gutenberg and the printing press. All of a sudden, the common man can read the Bible. Whoa. Tyndale was burned at the stake for translating the Bible in English. I mean, this is like craziness, right?
Right.
But here we are, and now knowledge increases exponentially. That book is unsealed. The seed war is manifesting. The enemy is outnumbered 2-1. The book of Revelation tells us that the beasts of the earth, the Therion, thank you, Russ Dizdar, are not hamsters and giraffes. So what the heck are they? What are they? What is the Therion, the beasts of the earth? And how can these things come in and create such carnage? Because they decimate entire places. First of all, Sasquatch can pop in and pop out. They're interdimensional. They're also seen a lot with UFO activities. Oftentimes, Sasquatch, Bigfoot are seen in the proximity of a UFO event. Gee, I wonder why. And so these are hybrid entities. They are modern day Nephilim, which are roaming the earth. They are highly intelligent. They have a very nefarious, dark agenda. There are other researchers who will, take issue with that. Believe what you want to believe, but that's what I'm holding on to. These are modern day Nephilim.
Something just occurred to me, and that is that you've mentioned the book of Daniel. And it's in the book of Daniel where there's this first reference, I believe, to the Son of Man. And this is Jesus's favorite way to describe himself. He refers to himself as the Son of Man. Was he referring to himself to the Son of Man in order to distinguish and delineate that he was of the line of man and not of this other seed? Is that part of the seed war, or am I reading too much into it?
No, I don't think you are at all. The seed of the woman. I mean, he's proclaiming he's the Son of Man. He's not of the fallen one. He's not some hybrid. He is a hybrid. And when I say that, people, Jesus is a hybrid. He's going. I get all that, but
he wasn't a car, folks.
No, he's not a Nephilim, but he's fully God and fully man. So you tell me what that is. It's a hybrid. Jesus is a hybrid.
Yeah.
And it's like. And people go, well, how is it possible? Well, it's a virgin birth. But there's genetic information that's somehow transmitted to Mary. Yeah. How? We're not told. But it is transmitted to her because he's fully God and fully man. He's born of a virgin. That in itself is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And he becomes one of us to a point.
To a
And
point.
then I mean, I wish Mary had written The Early Years by Mary, Mother of Jesus. It's just got we get a glimpse of it. We really do. At the wedding feast of Canaan, right? And they run out of wine. And for all you people that it was grape juice, it wasn't grape juice. All right, they drunk wine,
Right.
and a lot of Christians have a problem with that. I mean, go where you got to go. I'm not going to argue it. So they're drinking wine, and it's a bummer. And so the stewards come up to Mary, and Mary says something, in my opinion, which is so telling, so pregnant with meaning, so full of this hidden innuendo. And she says, "Whatever he tells you to do, just do it."
Right.
She knows. She's lived with them. And you remember,
Yeah.
this is not my time yet. What am I doing here, right? But he does it because he loves her. It's not this, not my time, woman. Get, it's not that. And she's like, whatever he tells you to do, no matter how weird it is, just go do it. I mean, can you imagine? Fill up those pots with water. So all the stewards are going, this guy's out of his mind. He's lost his marble. We don't know who this clown is, but I guess we'll do it anyway because his mother tells us to do this. They dip it in, and the steward goes, "You saved the best for last." The wine had vintage. It was aged. It was wonderful. That's who he is.
Wow.
And there's a lot of humor in that between Mary and Jesus because, she's going, oh my gosh, what's he going to do? Because she knows who he is because she's been with him from the beginning.
Yeah.
She knows who he is.
Yeah.
And that's why we get that little taste of humor. Whatever he tells you to do, just go do it. Trust me. Because she knows he's going to pull a rabbit out of his hat because that's what he does. It's unbelievable. I love it.
I want to take you back to, we're going to get to the UFO part because that's really interesting. But I want to take you back to this antediluvian world, but before the flood and talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. I mentioned off the top of the show, I was listening to this other podcast and the commentator was talking about the Cyclopean architecture, this incredible masonry that appears in South America and I believe he said Mesopotamia, other parts of the world, where it's actually not connected by any sort of masonry, and part of what he was saying is that possibly this was UFOs or it could have been these creatures that you're talking about. So I wonder if you could tie that together, this Cyclopean architecture, explain about that, and then explain how this antediluvian world, this pre-flood world, ties into Sodom and Gomorrah and the flood.
Yeah, you're probably referencing Tim Alberino.
Yeah,
because Tim calls it Cyclopean architecture.
Yeah,
and I respect him for that. I mean, it is what it is. I prefer to call it fallen angel technology, Nephilim architecture.
I was hoping you were going to say that because I saw the connection when I read your book. Yeah, like that is as inexplicable, and these things are massive. Like they're huge. Let me
show you one of my favorite pictures right here in the bottom. That's Irene, Brian Forrester's wife. Right?
Incredible.
Right?
And what part of the world is that in LA?
That's near Cusco, Peru.
Oh, yes. Right.
Cusco, Peru. Yeah. I've been there like 3 or 4 times. I've led a tour there twice, actually.
Wow.
And we're not going back for a while. We may go back in the future, but I have nothing planned. The Lord has redirected our steps to do what we're kind of doing now. But I call it Nephilim architecture, fallen angel technology. I interviewed 2 of the scientists who were part of that team that released the information, released a startling claim that there were structures underneath the Khafre pyramid. I interviewed them on Sunday. And what, unbeknownst to me, and I have not read this in any article, they got their data from 2 satellites from 2 different companies. So this isn't the same satellite going over.
Okay.
This is 2 different satellites going over, and they did it numerous times from different directions, and the data holds. The data holds. There is a structure, some sort of a structure underneath the Khafre pyramid. in my opinion, and you can go to my YouTube channel and watch the show, because I'm interviewing these two Italian scientists. They're in Italy. I'm here in the Santa Monica Mountains in California, and thank God for Zoom. And I'm like a kid in a candy store. I can't even believe I'm talking to these guys, but they consented to an interview. We went on for 45, 50 minutes. It's a great interview. L.A. Marzulli on YouTube, L.A. Marzulli on YouTube channel. So here's the rub. What we're looking at is the Giza power plant. I'm not the first person to bring that up, but there was a grid that connected the planet before the flood. And what we look at in some of these places, like Ollantaytambo, like Sacsayhuaman, like the Silestani Towers near Lake Titicaca on the border of Bolivia and Peru, and then other megalithic structures all over the earth. There was a grid system, and that grid system was destroyed in the flood. I believe that the pyramids were not, with all due respect to the Egyptians, the Great Pyramid and Khafre and the other ones are not built by Egyptians. This is part of the Giza power plant, which powered the globe. This is the reason for the flood, because the fallen ones had taken over. This is why only 8 people are saved on the ark. The whole place is corrupt. Right. And the Lord just goes, that's it, boom. And Robert Schoch proved that there was some sort of great erosion around the Sphinx. So, and that never happened. That never happened. Everybody yells and screams, but, Robert Schoch is correct. He's called every name in the book, just like I am. Oh, you're a pseudoscientist. Who are you to say this? Blah, blah, blah. It's just like, yeah, but I'm a human being, and I study and I read and I look and I work the scientific method. You tell me how that erosion got on the Sphinx. It's erosion. It's water erosion. So the Giza power plant was there. I think Sacsayhuaman, Tim Alberino refers to it as Cyclopean architecture. I prefer to call it Nephilim architecture, fallen angel technology.
Right.
When the flood happened, the fallen ones left and they took their technology with them. That's why when you look at the megalithic stones that I just showed you at Sacsayhuaman, there are no tools. All they have is these goofy copper chisels that the Inca used. We show this.
This is interesting. This is interesting because my understanding, correct me if this is wrong, but people like the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Hebrews and Mesopotamians, even some South American tribes who we consider ancient, they actually refer to a pre-existing societies as the ancients, and that they had all this incredible technology, like you're talking about, like Atlantis, for example. So we know that these ancient societies existed because they're actually referenced in what we consider ancient societies, correct? Or am I off the mark there?
No, you're not off the mark at all. It's referenced, but the Darwinists hate it because in Darwin, they can't stand it because in Darwinian evolution, there's no God, there's no supernatural. Mankind has gone like this.
Yeah.
So there's no blip here, flood destroys everything, and then we start over. Yeah. But as a supernaturalist, as a biblical literalist, there are flood legends all over the planet.
Yes.
The flood is a reality. And the grid was there. Here's something to think about. Jesus warns us to be like the days of Noah when he returns. That grid system existed in the days of Noah. Guess what? Right now, you and I are using the grid system. We helped build it. It's here. And it will be used to enslave every man and woman on the planet. Right now, it's somewhat benevolent, but we're already seeing censorship on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And that some of that is they're backpedaling it because of the new administration. Because, if we don't have free speech, we don't have anything.
Right.
Then who's fact checking the fact checkers? I'll just give you an example. So I did a 1-minute video on TikTok talking about CERN.
Yeah.
I said 3 things in a minute. I said, first of all, CERN is built on the ancient temple of Apollo. They had to stop building while they did rescue archaeology. That's number 1. Number 2, go look and prove me wrong. Go look at the dedication ceremony. They got a guy with a goat's head on and horns, Pan, right?
Yeah.
It's a full-blown occult ceremony at the opening of CERN. Gee, why did they do that? Oh, a third thing. Why is Shiva, the god of destruction, doing his little dance on the courtyard? Hello? Why is it that the director of CERN said, we quote, that we may let something through. We don't know. Something may come through. So in a minute, which I just did, I talked about those 3 or 4 things. oh, the fact checkers, they didn't even call me by name, YouTuber, blah, 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 blah. Fact checking says, oh, this is wrong. No, it's not. And see, that's the problem. You have people who are running roughshod on our intellectual property. People who are saying, and they have the loud voice. I don't.
Right.
And if I step out of line, I get a strike.
Right.
And I've spent the last 15 years building my YouTube audience. We have 232,000 subscribers.
Wow.
So if I get 3 strikes, I lose my income. I lose my business. And that's not right. That's not right. And other people have had it happen to them. So I have to watch what I say. I have no free speech. I can't say what's really on my mind. I've been saying it here. Hopefully, it'll pass. But even then, I have to watch what I'm saying. Sometimes I go over to Rumble and I'll do a YouTube video and I go, folks, if you really want to know what I think, come over to Rumble.
Right.
Because I have free speech on Rumble.
Yeah.
So I would hope that this administration does something with YouTube. And get rid of the woke ideology which is there, and allow us free speech, because without free speech, you have nothing.
But the force that's really suppressing your speech is not human, is it? It's a supernatural force that's trying to suppress your message, isn't it? Would you agree with that? That really
Yes
we're talking
no.
about principalities and powers?
It's not either or. It's both.
It's both.
Yeah,
right?
it is. It's
Okay.
both. Absolutely.
Sure.
They don't look. We're shadow banned. We know that. I mean, absolutely, we're shadow banned. People sign up, they subscribe. Well, Gio, you haven't done. I haven't got a notice that your video, guys. I do a video every day, sometimes 2 videos a day. We are concentrating on this because the outreach, like we already talked about, I go to a conference, 200, 300, 400 people every day. We're getting upwards of 20,000 people on our YouTube channel.
Incredible.
It's apples. It's not apples and apples.
Yeah. And you've got your lecture series too that you're doing, the Cosmic Chess Match. What's that all about?
Well, the lecture series was the idea that the Cosmic Chess Match and the companion book, Countermove, How the Nephilim Returned After the Flood. So the protocols of the Heavenly War, we get glimpses of them, but not the whole picture.
Right.
In other words, we get a glimpse in the book of Daniel, when the angel was dispatched. Daniel prays, angel dispatched. Can't get through. Prince of Persia's there. Well, why can't he just do an end run? Well, no, he's got to go through that gateway. Don't ask me how that works. You just can we have a couple of paragraphs here, please? But he's got to go get Michael and the boys, and they fight the Prince of Persia and his guys. How do they fight? Lightsabers, anyone? Maybe. But they fight in some way. Absolutely, they fight. Can they be killed? No, but they can be wounded. That's conjecture. Because later on in the book of Revelation, Michael, same guy, fights with the devil and his angels. The devil is overcome. How is he overcome? There's technology there. I don't think they're firing laser weapons, but I think somehow it's hand-to-hand combat with some sort of a flaming sword. I mean, what is that flaming sword that turns every which way in the Garden of Eden? The cherubim aren't wielding it, and the text is very clear. An angel's not holding a flaming sword. It's a flaming sword by itself, turning every which way. That's supernatural technology.
So here's a question I'm wondering about. So we've got Sodom and Gomorrah. You explained about that. God sends the flood to kind of clean the slate. How do the bad guys survive the flood?
Well, the angels, first of all, Sodom and Gomorrah is after the flood.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
Well after the flood. Yeah. And he does it again. He walks in, wipes everybody out.
Yeah.
So Lot and Noah are types of the rapture. Before destruction, God saves them. They're the types of the rapture of the church, regardless of what you believe about that. That's what they are, in my opinion. So I wrote a book. It's called Countermove, How the Nephilim Returned After the Flood. Because some well-meaning people say, oh, well, Ham's wife had the Nephilim gene, and when they procreated, the Nephilim came back. I'm not buying that for a minute. You think Noah would know who Ham's wife is? No, sorry, not marrying that woman. There's a vetting process in the Genesis 6, Genesis 7 narrative. Noah, you, your wife, your sons, and your sons' wives. Most High God's going to go, wait a minute, not Ham's wife. She's carrying a Nephilim gene. She can't come on the ark. I mean, and then the whole idea that Og is holding on to the boat and somehow he survives. I mean, this is all, it's wonderful. But what happens is in Genesis 6, it tells us exactly how the Nephilim came back. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards, when the sons of God saw the daughters of men and went into them and had children by them. It's plural. Moses is writing this thousands of years after the event. Thousands of years.
Yeah.
Genesis is way back here.
Right.
Moses is thousands of years after the event.
Right.
Why didn't the Holy Spirit just say the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, period? Done, right?
Okay.
That's not what he says.
So now we got to tie this in. Everybody's waiting for this shoe to drop. How do we tie all this in with what people call UFOs?
In 2 Kings chapter 6, Elisha and his servant Gehazi are surrounded by the Syrian army. So Gehazi goes, that's it, we're toast. My head's going to be on a platter in the morning. I mean, that's what he's thinking. So Elisha goes, Lord, open his eyes, and boots Gehazi out of a tent. Gehazi goes, oh my gosh, the chariots of fire are above the Syrian army. What is a chariot of fire? What's a chariot of fire? It's right there in the Bible.
No.
What is it? Gehazi is looking something above the Syrian army. It's in the air.
Right.
And all he can, in his vernacular, a chariot is the mode of the vehicle. That's it. There are no cars or airplanes, and there are no incandescent lights or oil lamps and fire. I looked up and saw a chariot of fire. If you and I were there, we'd look up and go, oh my gosh, a squadron of UFOs. Now what? But those are the good guys. Technology in the Bible, see, supernatural technology. And it's all there. You just got to read it and take it literally. Chariots of fire above the Syrian army. That's what we're looking at. So if you were going to create a massive deception, how would you do it? I challenge your viewers right now, after we're done, go on YouTube and Google "Hello Down There," Super Bowl ad 2024. Hello down there. Hello down there. It is predictive programming. And that little minute and a half commercial, which cost millions and millions of dollars to produce, not only it paying the Super Bowl ad time, but think about this, the actors, the cinematography, the editing, millions of dollars went into this thing. You don't even know what they're advertising in the last 5 seconds. A website makes it real, Squarespace. It's like, oh, really? It opens up with this woman. She's in New York City, and she's on a cell phone. And the headline on the cell phone, the camera comes behind her and shows the headline, and it says, Congress declares that UAPs, blah, 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 UFOs. And she kind of goes, and then she scrolls to the left, and now we see a cat scratching the toilet paper, and she goes like this. She's frowning in the beginning when she's hearing about UFOs, but now the cat is scratching the toilet paper, and the toilet paper is unrolling. She smiles. The camera pans upwards. You can still see your face in the cell phone, so the camera's doing an angle shot, and there's a mile-wide UFO, which goes flying over her head just like that. This is unbelievable. But because she's on her cell phone, she's oblivious. Cut to Paris, France. All these kids are on the grass in front of the Eiffel Tower. Over the Eiffel Tower is a huge UFO, quarter-mile wide. Everyone's on their goofy cell phones, on their tablets, and go to the airport. I mean, I've taken pictures. This is what you see.
Yeah.
Everybody's on their cell phone, laptops, iPads. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
We're in a whole different planet than what we were 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Then it cuts to New Mexico. There's a little diner there, an old-fashioned diner. So this woman is eating her food on a cell phone, right? Looking at the cell phone, and she's reading about celebrity bacon diet. Meanwhile, this guy, her husband in front of her, has got this huge plate of food, piggly wiggly. But then the camera shows both of them seated like this. Through the window, the dog on the back of the pickup truck is looking up and barking because there's a UFO directly over the diner. Then it cuts to Japan. There's a boardroom, 2 windows. Everybody's on their cell phones and iPads and laptops, and there's UFOs outside the window. Nobody sees them. So finally, the alien in the ship goes like this. And the alien has an elongated skull. And he goes like this, and he presses a button, and all of a sudden everybody's cell phone goes, "Hello down there."
Oh.
Have you ever seen an Amber Alert?
Yeah.
When everybody's phone, so they already know how to do that. And then everybody, it cuts right to the woman in New York City, and this is what she does. She's on her cell phone, "Hello down there," and she looks up. Directly overhead are mile-wide UFOs, and this is the expression. She like smiles and in total wonder and acceptance. Cuts to the Eiffel Tower. They're all on their feet, all the kids looking up at the mile-wide craft. Cuts to the diner in Texas. Same thing. Now they're at the window looking at the UFO overhead. Cuts to Japan. The boardroom. They're all pressed up against the windows, watching the UFOs go back and forth. Then it cuts to Martin Scorsese, who directed this thing, and this is the
Scorsese directed this commercial.
Yeah,
brilliant!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and Scorsese goes, "I told you not to take this way. This always happens." And he rolls down, looks up. There are mile-wide UFOs, too many to count in the clip, flying overhead. What they are telling us, this is predictive programming, is that when they show up, it's not just one UFO over some city. It's all over the cities of the world simultaneously.
Right.
So this is why the book, Rungs of Disclosure, is so important.
Right.
Because it traces the idea that in 2017, Commander David Fravor revealed that he had the contact with this tic-tac shaped UFO. And he went at it, and this thing shot away, like his own words, Fravor's words, like a bullet out of a gun. 50 miles in 2 seconds. How's that work? No rotor wash, no exhaust, no tail section, no wings, nothing. How does that work? So this is it's a complex discussion. We have an hour.
Yeah.
And I would challenge your listeners to do their homework.
Well, they can start by reading the book, folks. We're talking with L.A. Marzulli. He is the author of a book called Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials and the End Times. And the claim is that by the end of this book, you'll reveal the truth about extraterrestrial presences on Earth, that they are real, burgeoning, and not going away. You will also understand what the biblical perspective on this phenomenon is and is not. And that's kind of what I've been driving at here, trying to make these connections and trying to give you folks who haven't read the book a sense of how this all connects. Let me assure you, he does a masterful job of it in the book. And it covers a lot of ground. There's a lot of history here. There's a lot of connections to scripture. There's science, architecture, you name it. It's a book that's full of just fascinating ideas and thoughts and connections that you wouldn't otherwise make. He connects a lot of different dots, and you'll take it for what you will. But the one thing that he also does is he backs up everything with data, with proof. He provides the receipts. This isn't just somebody sitting down in a dream sequence, imagining UFOs connecting up with things that happen in the Bible. He really brings the receipts here, and it's a wonderfully entertaining book and also highly educational. It's not his only book. I want to tell you about he's written several others. There's also a book that I'm going to read. I have not yet read because I'm fascinated with this Nephilim idea, is On the Trail of the Nephilim. And this has 2 parts, right, Ellie? Do you want to talk about this book?
Yeah, there's actually 3 books in one. There's On the Trail of the Nephilim 1, On the Trail of the Nephilim 2, and then Nephilim Hybrids. And I was on with this. I was on with a researcher yesterday, and she brought up something which I found somewhat disturbing. She brought up the fairy that Richard Shaw and I debunked, and people can say what they want to say, but it's like there's always somebody out there, the naysayers, that are gonna just completely blast you away. I'm trying to find it. Hold on, where is it? Catalina. But we actually did the research with this fairy, and when we went to print, when I went to print in the book, I say, I believe the fairy is real, but we need more research. Right. And then when we got it out of Mexico and we were at a veterinarian's office, There were 3 veterinarians there. We took an x-ray. Everybody said, it looks real to me. Then the thing's laying on a tray for about an hour, and it's out of the formaldehyde, and the skin disintegrates. And we had, all of a sudden, I reach down and go, what's this? And I pick up, like this is an example, a piece of wood with epoxy on the end of it. And the lead veterinarian goes, that looks like wood and epoxy. We go back, sure enough, it doesn't fluoresce. It fooled everybody. And then 3 days later, we're up at the Natural History Museum in Santa Barbara with one of their guys who deconstructed it. It's a free film. It's called Anatomy of a Hoax. Anatomy of a Hoax. So this interviewer yesterday was bagging on me. It's like, well, your research is kind of I said, wait a minute. I took the x-rays to veterinarians here in California of the so-called fairy. They looked at it and said, it looks real. It fooled everybody, okay? Right. But once we got it, then we debunked it. And everybody, except for a couple of people, thank you for being forthright. Thank you for not trying to cover it up. And yet the stigma still remains. It's like, wait a minute, is that what research is about? And the moment we found out it was fake, I was on the phone with Skywatch TV, Prophecy Watchers. It's fake. Don't go with it.
Right.
Because everybody thought it was real. It fooled everybody.
That shows the integrity of your research. Yeah.
I would like to think so. Yeah. But this interviewer yesterday was, why would they bring this up? There's 30 films and 14 books, and you're focused on the one time with all this information that we were wrong. And we weren't wrong because I said more research needs to be done. It's like, I think you got a dog in the fight here, pal.
Well, yeah, that sounds like it. You don't have to worry about that here, however. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about UFO disclosure. This looks like a really fascinating series, the definitive collection of the UFO phenomena from a biblical perspective. This is a series that you directed with Gil Zimmerman. Yes. You want to talk about this series and where people can find it and watch it?
Well, this series is right here. UFO disclosure. We are, and I'm boasting, but we are the only Christian ministry that's done a real deep dive on the entire UFO phenomena. Everything from close encounters of the first, second, third, fourth kind, even fifth kind, abductions, crop circles, cattle mutilations. We have 2 films on Roswell. We went to the debris field. We pulled out metal from the crash site on camera. We're the only film crew who have ever done that. Wow. And then we've had it analyzed, and we're in the process of doing more research with that metal. We've got 3 different pieces, and 3 different labs have looked at it. We know it's aluminum. 2 of the labs said it doesn't fit anything we have here. Yeah. So, we're doing more research on it, but we're being forthright. We're not saying, oh, we found pieces, but we did. We found pieces in the debris field. And yet the naysayers, my comeback to them is, well, have you been to the debris field? Oh, you don't even know where it is, do you? But we spent the time. It's when I say it's out in the middle of nowhere, it is absolute. You'd never find it in a million years unless you knew someone, who knew where it was. And even Jesse Marcel Sr., who was taken out there by Matt Brazel like decades ago, 1947. He says on camera, decades later, after that event, I never would have found it. Because, and we show it in the film, there's nothing around it. Yeah. Nothing.
How did you find it?
Well, we have a friend who we interviewed, Frank Kimbler. And Frank Kimbler had been out there numerous times. And he spent a lot of time out there. And so we interviewed him. So Frank was our guide, and he had a metal detector, and our good friend Chuck Sikowski had a metal detector. Again, I'm boasting here, but we are the only film company on the planet to actually show the metal coming out of the ground. Wow. And it's about half the size of my little finger here, my little pinky fingernail. It's really small, and it's folded in on itself like this. And so the metallurgist, we were just at SEAL Lab, ERG Lab now it's called, but it used to be SEAL. So we were just there a couple of weeks ago, and the metallurgist came in the room, and I said, well, looking at this, what do you think happened? And she said on the record, whatever happened here is very traumatic of this piece of metal. oh, really? Like a crash? It's like, exactly. And it's folded in on itself. When you look at it from a naked eye, you know something's weird. But when you go down and you magnify it 300 times, it's folded in. Something happened. So, I've got it sitting in my office over there, and I should have brought it with me, but I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like this. This is my hand with the piece of metal in it at the Roswell debris site right there.
Wow.
That's what it looks like.
Incredible. So the UFOs, if you say that they're, creatures, extraterrestrials, are these from other galaxies, or is this tied into the other stuff that we're talking about?
It ties into the other stuff that we're talking about. These are not extraterrestrials; they are interdimensional entities. This is why 2 Kings chapter 6 is so important, because it tells you that this has been going on. This is why Genesis 3:15. We are in the midst of a cosmic war. Now, how do you? I actually was at the Prophecy Watchers conference last weekend, in fact, and I said one of my presentations was, how do you form a one world religious system, a one world government? The Bible tells us this is going to happen. Well, if you have a nuclear event that goes off anywhere on this planet, if you have an atom bomb going anywhere that just blows up, we're all connected, like we talked about. The grid's back. The whole world will experience this collectively. It'll create the greatest human fear, the greatest amount of fear that mankind has ever experienced. We're all experiencing it together. Guess what? That's when they show up. And get this, I'm going to read you something. This is it's channeled information. It's channeled information. It comes from a woman who goes into a trance. The entity comes in and gives her this information. The information is from a fallen angel or a demon. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during this time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. This is a tract that we printed up. Thank you, Brad Myers, for instigating this. But if you buy anything at the store, we stuff a bunch of these things in them because people need to understand that this is the coming great deception. So, we're getting close to the end here. Let me just say this, that 26 years ago, when I wrote my very first novel, Nephilim, The Truth Is Here, on the UFO phenomena, the Lord gave me a sentence, and it was this: this is the coming great deception. The revealing of the so-called extraterrestrial presence is the coming great deception. Years later, with Richard Shaw, we were doing the Watchers series, he gave me another sentence. It was, UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. But 5 or 6 years ago, I'm at the Prophecy Watchers doing an interview with Gary Stearman. And then I came up with, we go up, they come down. We go up, they show up. And my Lord told me just this year, 2025, put all those sentences together. UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. This is the coming great deception. However, when we go up, they come down. When we go up, they show up. And I just read you that channeled information from What is the Truth. I'm not making this up. I mean, there it is.
Right.
From the other side of the aisle. And I heard this 50 years ago when I was in the New Age. I heard this very thing. So here it is. It's just mind-boggling.
Fascinating. Folks, we've been talking with L.A. Marzulli. He is an author, a filmmaker, lecturer, and this has just been a thrill ride of a conversation. I feel like I've been taken up into UFO for an hour. But the most recent book is called Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials and the End Times. But that's only the beginning of a lifetime of research that LA has done. He's also got a series of DVDs on UFOs and a dozen more books. And we're going to provide all the links for you so you can visit his YouTube channel and find out where you can find his books. And perhaps if you can get out to one, he travels around. He's got a lecture series that he's doing. So we're going to provide links to all of that. We want to thank you so much, LA. It's been just a thrill, a real treat to have you on the program. Really
Well,
enjoyed our
thank you.
talk, and
Yeah.
I can tell you I've read the Rungs of Disclosure. I'm really fascinated, as you can probably tell by this Nephilim idea. So I'm going to dive into those books first. I'm going to have to go back to the beginning maybe and read your novel first. Would you recommend that for a start?
Well, people ask me that, and if you get the Cosmic Chess Match, all the information's there, and then Countermove. Those two books go hand in hand.
Okay.
It really arms the reader with where we are, what's happened, where we're going now. A lot of material there.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you so much for being our
Thank
special
you.
guest. I hope God continues to bless you and your fellow researchers and all the work that you're doing. Keep up the great work, and I hope you keep writing these great books. I'm really
Well, praise the
excited
Lord. Yep.
to read the rest of your work. I've got a long way to go,
Thank you. Thank you.
but thanks
Appreciate it.
again for being our special guest.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.